Good morning. Good morning. Aloha. It's really good to be back. And I want to begin, and I was remiss at first service by not doing this. It is the weekend of Veterans Day. And I think it's very important for us to acknowledge those who have served our country in the armed forces, many of them doing those small things that made a big difference with great love, and many understanding that there is no greater love than to lay down one's life for another. But in that sense of respect and honor for all those who have served our country, I would really like to ask all of you to please stand. Those of you who have been in the military. We all deeply thank you for your service. Edison, please remain standing just for a moment so everyone can see how beautiful you look. Can you believe he can still get into his uniform? Man. Thank you, Edison. Thank you. Well, I just feel it's so important for us to acknowledge the service of so many that have loved our country enough to give of themselves in that way. And I know there are many of you that love our country in lots of other ways and give as well. Thank you for your beautiful, beautiful treatment this morning and reflection. And Kelly, thank you for your song and your wonderful words about returning home. That really, it's all here. It's already here. Our home is right here where our heart is. And I guess that's part of what I want to talk about this morning. I chose the title, Reflections from the Heart, because when they asked me for a title, I didn't know what I was going to say today. So I made that up. And I figured whatever I say is a reflection from my heart. So there we go. So as I thought more and more about what I wanted to talk about, I thought the title really should be Island Style. Because for the last 6 months, Don and I have been living on the island of Kauai, as many of you know. We had a dream and a vision for most of our married life. We both love, I don't really need these right now. We both love Hawaii. We've gone so many times that on that form you get on the airplane that says how many times have you visited Hawaii, we have no idea. It's way over 10, that's for sure, over 30 years. And actually, I didn't share this at the first service, but we had talked a lot for many years about having an extended stay in Hawaii and really getting the sense of life there, because we've always talked about maybe moving there. So we were having lunch with two friends who live on the island of Kauai, who are ministers, Reverend Rita Andriello and Reverend Patrick Farron, a married couple who are the founders of the Kauai Center for Spiritual Living. And we were sharing with them our vision, and they said, well, have you ever thought about just staying 6 months? And we said, no, 6 months, that's a good idea, because we were thinking a year. And they said, yeah, we feed the cats at this house where the owners can only be here 6 months because they're Canadian, and if they stay longer, they lose their health insurance. And it's available for 6 months. We want to see it. So they drove us up, and we walked in and walked to the house is on a hillside, walked to the back of the house. Here's this lanai, and a view from the mountains to the ocean. And before we even went inside, Don said, we'll take it. I said, could I just see the inside for a minute? So we saw the inside, and it was very comfortable, and we made an arrangement to spend 6 months, which we just completed, and the owners are now back and out of Canada, out of Toronto. I'm sure they're very happy to be in the islands right now with that weather. So that's how that happened. But you know what I know about that is that we teach in this teaching that what you put into your heart and spirit as your heart's desire, and really open up to the divine and really release that into the divine mind, into spirit itself, that these things have a way of manifesting. And we don't always know how or when, but we know that they do. And that this vision and this image and this dream that we had of living in the islands became a reality because we never gave up on that. Dr. Kathy, when she spoke 2 weeks ago, quoted David White, a wonderful poet, and she used the expression, keep your eyes on the good that is already calling you. And she was speaking in reference to the new minister that you are drawing to you right now. But it's true in life. Keep your eyes on the good that is calling you. Turn it over to God and allow the Spirit to work its wonderful ways, these mysterious ways. And you never know what can happen. So I had somebody come up after the second service and said, I'm 85 and I think I'm too old. I said, you're never too old. You're going to get old somewhere. Why don't you get old where you want to be? Right? What the heck? So I don't want to go into every detail of what we did while we were there, but I really wanted to share with you today some of the things that I found that really apply not only to the islands, but to life itself and to each one of us and to this beautiful center. And I also want to give you a couple of little historical facts before I go any further. I was at the town hall meeting last week, and somebody mentioned the Jewel by the Sea, and they didn't know where the origin came from, and someone else said, well, it came from a restaurant that used to be downtown, and I was thinking to myself, no, that's not where it came from, but I didn't want to correct her that time. But the Jewel by the Sea phrase came on the evening of my installation when I was made the minister here in 2006. They always have a lovely ceremony, and Reverend Diane Davison, who's a dear friend of mine, was one of the speakers, and she said, this is truly a jewel. It is a jewel by the sea. And everybody just embraced that, and from that time forward, we've called it a jewel, the Jewel by the Sea. And another thing that I want to share with you, too, because I know we're not doing this right now, but on the front, we have a statement of who we are, and it starts out, we are a loving spiritual sanctuary where everyone is welcome. And this also originated in a visioning group way back in 2006. After we had a long period of really having a time to listen and hear each other, we then began to vision, and this statement came out of that visioning, and it is as true today as it was then. We are a loving spiritual sanctuary where everyone is welcome, and I won't read the whole thing, but you can, and please do. And so I realize we're replacing that right now, but I wanted you to just have a little bit of background. Sometimes when you're newer to the center, there are sort of myths that get started, and they're not always accurate, so I just want to make those accurate. So with that. So, on the very first morning that we arrived at our house in the beginning of May, end of April, we got there April 30th, we walked out on our lanai, this wonderful, beautiful lanai, and looking out, as I said, from the mountains to the sea, and there greeting us was this double rainbow. First day, talk about a message of welcome, yeah, you're in the right place. And we just felt so heartened by that sense of this is such a good omen for us while we were here. And it was. And we truly enjoyed every moment of our time there, and we have made the choice to empty out a house we've lived in a long time and have a lot of stuff. So it'll take us a little while to get that cleared out, get the house on the market, and sell the house and move to the islands, because we're going to grow old somewhere. Might as well be there. So anyway, I want to talk about these three terms that I feel are so perfect for us here as they are for life, as they are for all of us. And the three terms are aloha. The next one is the phrase malama ka'aina, or malama kakai, which means care for the land or care for the sea. And the last one is kokua. And how those three Hawaiian words or phrases apply to what I experienced over there as well as what I know we are here. I lived in the islands many years ago, and of course very much embraced the idea of the aloha spirit then. But the word aloha itself, many people know it means hello, goodbye, I love you, but it also has deeper meaning. The actual Hawaiian translation of aloha is alo, which is presence, and ha is the breath. So it's breathing in the presence. Or the presence in terms of you and I face to face as the namaste, breathing together as one, breathing together. That makes it a whole different meaning, doesn't it? The word aloha also extends to a spirit that one carries within themselves. We might call that agape love. It is that sense of recognizing our oneness with all of life, our oneness with all of each other, the namaste. And it is a spirit that really, truly is palpable when you're in the islands. You feel it. It's real. And it's everywhere. There are smiles and greetings and warmth and a sense of welcome. And here is this incredible gathering place of these people from every part of the planet who, for one reason or another, have come to the islands. So you hear many different languages. There are many different cultures. There are many different races. There are many different religions. And there are many different ways of being in the world, and we all come together and recognize that we are ohana, we are all family. And that is a very powerful feeling on an island, and I'll go into that a little bit more in a moment. But I want to give you a couple of real-life experiences of the aloha spirit that I just feel are so fun. The first one is, because the house was on a hill, the main highway was down below, and there's just one road that goes around most of the island, but part of the island is vertical cliffs, so you can't even go all the way around the island. And that road is called, where we were, is called Kukui Highway. And we would come down from our house and go to the stop sign at Kukui Highway. Now, if you've only got one road going around the island and it's time to go to work, it's lunchtime, or it's time to come home from work, there's a traffic jam. And we would laugh about the traffic jam because it would mean that we might be 10 minutes late getting to where we are instead of the 405 where you're 2 hours late. And the ocean's right there, so who cares, right? I mean, so you move slow. It's okay. But the traffic would be there, and we wouldn't even wait 30 seconds, and somebody would stop and let us in. And they would let you in with a smile, and you would wave back, and oftentimes you would get the shaka. You know, this is a sign the surfers call hang loose, but it's also that sign of like, hey brother, hey sister, you my friend. And so we would get that. The first day I got back here, I was going to the grocery store, and I was turning into a driveway to go to the grocery store, and someone behind me didn't think I was going fast enough, so they honked their horn, and then as I turned, I got another sign, but I won't demonstrate it. I never saw that one over there. That's the difference. That's the aloha spirit. If you want to turn left, even in turning left, cars would stop coming the other way and let you in. I mean, it's just a little thing, but it's a wonderful feeling. And somebody at First Service who had been over there said, I adopted that when I got back home, and I have too. It's just such a nice feeling to be the one that says, yeah, come on in. It's okay. I'm not in that big a hurry. I was reminded this morning of a saying from Buddhism that rushing is a form of violence. And I think that is so true. And if you think about that a lot, you think you can really see how that applies. But we would know who the tourists were because, first of all, their cars were shinier and newer than most of the other cars. And secondly, because they would be the ones that would be speeding past you on the two-lane highway whenever they could. And you think, oh, you haven't been here long enough yet. You just haven't been here long enough yet. You'll get it. You'll calm down. You'll slow down. So that's the aloha spirit, this wonderful sense of community and warmth and love that pervades the island. We have that here. Rick alluded to it when he said when he walks in, he feels love and hugs. That's the aloha spirit. We have it right here. We are that. We are that, and we are like a little island unto ourselves as well. But I want to talk a little bit more about island life and more about what these words mean. So my other experience with the aloha spirit, the car that came with the house was a 2000 Suzuki Esteem station wagon. Did anybody even know what that is? It's kind of like the lower price version of a Subaru. And I sat very low in it, which meant the steering wheel was up here, which meant I felt like the old lady that can't see over the steering wheel. So I had to put towels to sit on so I could get up high enough to see over the front. And whereas Don, being as tall as he is, felt like he was in a midget car. So it was like the two of us had an experience of really appreciating our cars, from home. But it was wheels, and it got us around, and we were happy. battery. But because it was very old, I was at Costco getting gas, and the battery died. And so I couldn't start the car. And of course at Costco, you know there's always a line. Same is true on Kauai. So I got out of the car, and there was a guy in a big Chevy pickup behind me. And I said, I'm so sorry, but my battery died, and I can't make the car start. He says, well, I'll push it. I'm thinking, big truck, little car. He said, no, I'll push it. And so he got out of his car, and he pushed my car and moved it so it was out of the traffic lane. And then, got his gas, and as far as I knew, drove off. In the meantime, I called AAA. And then all of a sudden, the same man shows up at my window and says, I have jumper cables. Do you want me to give you a jump? I go, oh, yeah, because AAA had just told me it would be 2 hours before the truck could come. There's only one tow truck on the island. That's one of the drawbacks. So he started my car for me, and I had just spent all my cash. I didn't have any money to give him, so I had a basket of fruit. I said, would you like this? I want to pay you. Oh, no. And he drove off. Never saw him again. It was like I had this aloha angel that came to help me. But it's just that generosity of spirit. And that's just one of the ways in which people just automatically do for others those small things with great love that you talked about this morning. So that sense, I think, gives you an idea. The next word is malama. Malama ka'aina, malama kakai. Malama is a Hawaiian word for care for, and I love it because it's kind of like mama. The word kind of reminds me mama. Malama ka'aina, to care for the land. The ancient Hawaiians, when they lived on the island, understood very clearly how important it was for them to care for this land, because it was all they had. The Hawaiian Islands, by the way, are the islands that are farthest from any landmass anywhere in the world. So it's quite a distance to get there. It takes almost 6 hours to fly there. It takes a ship about 4 to 5 days to get there. And so they understood that they had to preserve and care for. So when they grew their crops, they made sure that there was always a sustainable crop. When they ate fish, or they caught a bird or whatever it was they were eating, a wild pig, they made sure that they utilized every single bit of that animal or every single bit of the plant, and then that they replenished it in some way. Now, the Hawaiians, one of their staple foods is taro, poi. Have any of you eaten it? Library paste is a good description. But when they dig up the poi in this very wet soil, which is really almost like a little pond, almost like a rice paddy, they take the top off the taro, and they plant the top, and they grow a new taro root. And so the Hawaiian belief is that the history of the Hawaiian people is in the taro. Just a beautiful thought. And if you think about any plant, any tree, any fruit, the history of life is in those plants and in those trees. So I thought that's just such a beautiful thought. The idea of malama and caring for also applies in so many ways to how the island is being treated today. Through the ages, a lot of different people came from different parts of the world, and at the point when many, like Captain Cook first, and then other people and the Americans that came over, exploited the land, and there were a lot of things that were destroyed in the process of that exploitation. And now people are beginning to realize this is the only island we have. And it's beautiful. And so the work now is to return it more back to the ways of sustainability. The farmers there are using what is called sustainable farming practices rather than corporate farming practices. So it's more about utilizing the earth in the sense of replenishing and restoring rather than just bringing in chemicals and dumping them into the ground. There's a huge movement on to eliminate GMO from the islands, and there are some things that they probably won't ever be able to do that with, but where they can, they are. So that idea of sustainability, there is a 50-acre solar storage farm, a Tesla storage farm, that allows the island to operate on solar at night instead of burning diesel. And so the goal of the island is to get off of all fossil fuels and use only replenishable energy on the island. The same idea is also at the goal of 2020, and they look like they're on track to be able to produce enough food to feed the population on the island from the island. Now, that doesn't mean your Cheerios and your boxed Kraft mac and cheese, but it means vegetables, fruits, and meat and fish in a way that allows the people to be self-sufficient. That is a really amazing goal, and the fact that they're so close to achieving it is wonderful. One of the things that Don and I would observe from the house, looking down at the water, was that every Tuesday and every Friday, the barges would come in from Honolulu. All of the big shipping lanes go to Honolulu, and all the big ships unload all their cargo, and then it's distributed out to the other islands. Well, that cargo is the things that stock the shelves at Costco, and Safeway, and Home Depot, and whatever else. And if there should be a storm, no barge. And you would learn that if you went to the store on Thursday afternoon, it's likely you weren't going to find what you were looking for, but if you went back on Friday afternoon, it would all be there, and you'd be out of luck again if you waited until, the following week, Monday. So you had to learn how to also care for your planning ahead and care for yourself in that sense. The other idea that relates from Malama, Ka'aina, and loving the land and the sea is the idea that this concept of planning and looking ahead, if you just think about Puerto Rico and what they have just gone through there, another island, and part of the problem there was that the infrastructure wasn't in place to plan ahead for such a disaster. Hawaii, the island of Kauai, had a hurricane like that in 1992, and it devastated a lot of the island. And from that experience, they learned what they needed to do to malama, ka'aina, to care for the land, to care for the sea, and to be sure that they would be better prepared should that happen again. So the barges are an outside source for sustenance, and much in the same way, we try to depend on outside sources for our good. Sometimes we think that it's all going to come from out there, instead of really being prepared by the inner practice that you sang about so beautifully this morning, that wellspring that we can build up within ourselves. I call it that spiritual bank account that comes through practice, and through our spiritual practice, and through prayer, and through recognizing and having the feeling of gratitude. And in the same way that Malama Ka'aina is for us all to care for this beautiful earth, because this is like an island, but we also live on an island called planet Earth. And part of our call, just even biblically, is to have dominion. Dominion does not mean domination. It means to care for. It means to be custodial and care for. So the same principle of Malama applies as much to this community as it does to our planet. All of these ideas are microcosm and macrocosm in the way in which they work. So the outside sources are not always necessarily the way that we're going to experience the good. We also experience the good by building it up from within, from our own selves. And I also want to just say that the beauty there is so incredible. It is everywhere you look, every shade of green, all the flowers, the sea and the sky, and they change color all day long. And there's such a deep desire on the part of the people to preserve it and to love it. You rarely see trash along the side of the highway. And when you do, it's sort of like, what's that doing there? And people are constantly going to the beach and cleaning up the plastic that keeps coming in onto the shore. But everyone's working to do their little part with great love to care for this beautiful place. There's also another thing about when you live on an island, wherever you go, there you are. It's an island. And I'm always surprised. I've lived in Huntington Beach for 30 years. I've been around Seal Beach for years and years and years. And I can go a lot of places and never see anybody I know. over there, I saw somebody I knew everywhere I went. And I thought, if you're not practicing the Aloha spirit, and you're not showing up as love, if you're not doing like Maya Angelou said, what is it? She said, people will remember what we say, people may not remember what you say, people may not remember what you did, but they will remember how you made them feel. It's so true over there. And so we want to, that I think is another reason why people recognize, hey, this is a really small place. I'm treating people with aloha and with respect. I am malama the people too, the ohana. So we all live on islands. We all live on these different islands. This island of our home, the island of this beautiful center. The island can express that aloha spirit and that malama, or it can not. And that is the job of all of us, to do that right here in this wonderful space. The other word is kokua, and that means to cooperate. It means to help out. It means to give mutual assistance, and that's the aloha spirit in action. I believe in the goodness of human beings. Don't you? I think that we are all basically good. And I'm always touched by the way people bond together in a crisis, and you talked about that in your meditation this morning. I've witnessed that over and over again, and with all that we've been watching going on in our world over these last years, that's the one thing we see is how people pull together and come together. And that's part of the idea of the island life. That's part of the aloha spirit. That's part of the malama, of recognizing we're all in it together. We're all in it together. It is also a very spiritual place. The island of Kauai has a beautiful Hindu temple up on a hill, surrounded by magnificent gardens. And the temple, I started watching it being built in 2006 when it was just a few stones and some stone carvers when they started the excavation of the footprint of this beautiful temple. Now the temple's almost complete with a golden dome, an absolutely gorgeous hand-carved stone that came from India. The carvers came from India. Anyone can go up there in the morning and walk the grounds and just sense this spirituality that's there. There are beautiful Buddhist temples. There's a place called Lawai that the Japanese in the 30s brought over 88 little stone shrines and placed them on the side of a hill. So and it's very, very narrow little path that you can walk up these shrines and pray for peace at each shrine, 88 of them. And once a year they open it up to the public, and 200 people came. We all joined together, and each of us stopping at one of those shrines to pray while a flute player played this beautiful music while we did that. This community comes together. All people, all races, all religions are welcome. There are lots of Christian churches and Mormon churches, and there's a very small but very active Jewish community, and they don't have a synagogue, so the Episcopal Church opens their doors for the services for the Jewish community. That sense of cooperation, of kokua, of joining together and seeing that we are all part of this together is so prevalent there. Not to mention the food. You want to go to Indonesia, you want to go to Japan, you want to go here, you want to go, it's all there, and it's all good. So I'm sharing this with you because right now we're in this process, and we are in a place where the aloha spirit is essential for us to continue to focus on the good that we want to experience, the good that is calling us. That good is also calling our minister. We don't know who that minister is yet, but what I know is that always works, that what we are seeking is always seeking us. Thomas Troward, for those who haven't taken the class, that's where that came from. But that idea that we are all working together as one family, and we all ultimately have the same goal. We're inviting into our space a spiritual leader who will reflect back to us the wholeness that we are. And in order for us to have that wholeness reflected back, we must embody that wholeness within us as well. We must be that we wish to attract. That's how it works. And that's how the work will be generated and drawn to us in a very wonderful way. So that overarching value of wholeness as you move forward together in this process is really important to you. I want to finish with a little quote from Dennis Waitley. He says, "No man or woman is an island. To exist just for yourself is meaningless. You can achieve the most satisfaction when you feel related to some greater purpose in life, something greater than yourself. I think the words of Mother Teresa of doing small things with great love is an image of that. The work that we do here to uphold that vision of new thought of all of our wonderful communities together, whether religious science or unity or divine science or any of the other many churches that fall under that umbrella of new thought, our global heart vision of a world that works for everyone. It's also an island that works for everyone. It's also a community and a center that works for everyone. And that takes the spirit of aloha, that takes kokua, that takes malama, it takes great love, and many, many people doing small things to make that happen. So I bless you and thank you, and I'd like to just take you within for just a moment. To recognize and know that great love that is God. That great love that is the very breath we breathe, the very beat of our hearts. It is that great love that unites us, that calls us together to recognize one another as part of this great human family of spiritual beings, that we are these beings of love and beings of light, that we are drawn together here in this very place in order that we might serve one another with great love. And so as we call forth for this new spiritual leader, we recognize that that leadership is already within us, that it is not so important what comes to us from the outside as to what we express from the inside. And so we choose to express great love. We choose to express great aloha and great malama and great kokua as we draw to us this beautiful community. I know that there may be those in this room today who are facing a challenge, and I know that God is right there, present in that very situation, whether it be financial, whether it be health, whether it be relationship, whether it be a call for peace of mind, whatever it may be, that comforting presence of love is right where you are, that peace of God, that healing power of the Christ. So I give thanks for this day. I give thanks for this beautiful spiritual jewel by the sea. I give thanks for all that is expressed here, releasing my word now into the mind and heart, the love and law of God. And I invite you to join with me in agreement by saying, and so it is. Thank you.